How are y'all having? Do y'all have coffee today? Are y'all caffeinated yet? Woo! Well, if y'all want to grab a seat really quick, we'll go ahead and get started. My name's YJ Lin. I'm the Senior Program Manager at our Dell for Startups team. This is my second year here. And the first year I came here, Chantel told me that this was the largest startup week in the US.
Hear that.
I've been to Atlanta, Dallas, Austin. I've been to a lot of events. And I can tell you, this is definitely one of the largest startup weeks in the US. So you guys have a lot of venues, you have a lot of sessions. And I'm really grateful to be here with y'all today to learn more from y'all about what are the programs and what are the education, what are the needs that y'all have. And part of our core mission is to make sure that we connect with you as startups and entrepreneurs with our startup IT advisors, and we have 600 of them across Austin and Nashville. But with that being said, before we get started, I'd love to introduce my wonderful panelists today. We have Michael Bevis from the Denver Economic Development Opportunity. We also have Kate Bailey, Diane Myles, Carrie Thomas-Omáur, and Diane Bailey from Founder Institute. How many of y'all know these people? Raise your hands if you do. Okay, well, before we get started, I would love for them to introduce themselves and how y'all got into space, your experience, and what you're doing for the startup community in Denver.
I guess that's up to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to remember all those questions, but I do know my name. It's Kate Bailey. I am the founder and CEO of TARRA. We are a co-working space in Denver, elevating women in business. And what we're doing for the startup community in Denver, I'm really excited about a research project that we have with the University of Denver, Daniels College of Business, and DEDO. Michael Bevis is on our team. We're researching and mapping the funding ecosystem in Colorado for women and BIPOC founders to better understand where they're falling through the cracks of the system. The goal is to create real programs and solutions that are helping to fill those gaps for those founders so that they can more easily raise capital of all kinds.
Great. And as Kate mentioned and YJ mentioned, my name is Michael Bevis. I'm the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the City of Denver. So I would say the short version of that is that it's my job to create an ecosystem that allows entrepreneurs to thrive. So connections to programming, resources, mentorship, access to capital, whatever you need. I say it's my job to get you plugged into those resources. And if those resources don't exist, then I go out and I create them. So some of the work, as an example, what we're doing with Kate, we hope to identify some challenges there that we can then go out and create solutions to help solve some of those gaps. I've been with the city now for 5 years. I'm the first person in this role at the city. I have been an entrepreneur my whole life. I started my first company when I was 12. Spent a good amount of my professional career in higher education. And so when I came to the city, this opportunity just felt like the perfect blend of all of my skills and my passions. So happy to be here.
Diane Myles. I am the community chair for Denver Startup Week. So if you see all the people in the blue shirts, I don't have mine on, but I have been working hard with them all year to plan this amazing event, and we are here. I'm also the CEO of a company called Dope Mom Life. We are a full-service video production company, and all the work we do is through a culturally respectful and responsive lens. So we look at humans as their assets. We're not colors. We're not low income. We are humans, and that's how we tell all of our stories. And then I just do a lot. So work a lot in the entrepreneur and in the community to make sure that especially our entrepreneurship community can thrive. All of us in that community.
Hey guys, my name is Carrie Thomas-Omáur. I am the community manager for Colorado Startups. I actually moved to Denver 2022, and I knew nothing. I knew no one. I had no friends, no connections, no ecosystems. And I went to a happy hour with Colorado Startups. And that was kind of like my catalyst to really say, you know what, I want to be a part of a community where I can be that for other people, be that roadmap when people coming to Denver. There's people coming to Denver all the time. And being able to say, hey, this is a place where you can go, you can build a community, you can know what events you can go to, here's resources and things like that. And then also, I am an operations manager of a company called Solasa Digital, where we help people shine their light bright.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Diane Bailey. I am the head of Accelerator Growth for Founder Institute. Founder Institute is the world's largest pre-seed accelerator. So I help oversee our 200 plus programs, their cohort-based programs in 100 cities and 6 continents. I first came to Denver when I was launching my B2B SaaS startup, and I was blown away by all of the resources and community here in Denver. And when I was a founder, I found myself being in take mode. Take. And now I feel super humbled that I am in a position where I can give. Give
me a round of applause for our panelists today. And one of the main reasons why we've hosted these panel discussions in different cities is because it's so easy to look at what other cities are doing. It's so easy to say, oh man, there's a lot of investors in San Francisco or New York, but today, we're really here to celebrate Denver. Today, we're really here to celebrate all the opportunities, all the challenges, and all the things that the city of Denver is trying to do to help build a better ecosystem for all the founders here. How many of y'all here are founders? A majority of them. The rest of y'all, are y'all investors? Awesome, it's cool. There's an investor right there if y'all want to find them.
They may not want to raise their hand.
Just one person. Well, where's your friends? We don't know.
They were just slow.
They're just low. But all that being said, at the end of it, we'll have like 10 or 20 minutes of questions. So if there's any questions that y'all have to ask these wonderful people about more things that you'd love to learn about Denver, the whole purpose of today's session is just to really learn more about our city and what we can do moving forward. So I'd love to start off with the first question is, what are some of the resources and programs that you feel maybe underutilized by entrepreneurs, or are things that you feel like startups really need to lean in and take advantage of?
I'm going to give a shout out to my homie to the left. I actually really feel like DEDO is one of the worst, best kept secrets in the city because there are so many people that they have an open, I'm going to say Rolodex. God, I hate it when I do that, but I'm old.
You're aging us.
I know, sorry.
Not all of them.
But they really do have this incredible bank of resources and people that are just willing to be like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And I've discovered more and more as we've done this project with them that's been something that I think that a lot of people need to know more about. There are a ton of supportive organizations, tiny ones that are doing incredible work. Latinas in Tech is one of my favorites. I think that they're doing some really amazing work with Latinas, both on the startup side and also in, kind of working as employees in the technology industry. There's so much if you dig. One of the challenges I think that we need to work on in Denver is finding ways to share those resources a little more easily.
That's great. So to that point, Kate's comment, or being us being the best kept secret, I'm actually hosting a session on Wednesday afternoon called Denver's Best Kept Secret for that exact reason, right? So we do have a ton of resources in the Office of Economic Development and Opportunity, from businesses all the way at the ideation phase, all the way up to the Fortune 500 CEOs that say, hey, we hear Denver's cool, we want to move our company there, what do we got to do? Right, so we have resources for businesses in every industry sector, things that you wouldn't think about, right? So one of the things that you'll hear throughout this week, if you're new to Denver Startup Week, is you'll hear things why companies chose to relocate their businesses here in Denver was access to talent. We have a whole department in our agency that helps you find that talent, okay? Again, a secret, but I don't want to get into all that stuff because I'll chew up all of the time, but please, if you're looking to learn more, come find me after this session or come to the session on Wednesday.
I don't think I have anything else really to add. I mean, there's a lot of small organizations that are hyper-focused on the communities that they served, and they're very intentional. I think the one thing we can do better in Denver is making sure that everybody knows that these resources exist because they are here. So how do we share that message? and build up people's social capital so they know these are the resources that are here and you can access them. Sister Biz is one of my favorites. She serves Black women. Makisha Booth serves Black women entrepreneurs, but there's so many organizations like that that are out here that are looking at the whole entrepreneur. So from start to finish, funding, all of the things, but we have a lot of those resources here, and I think we just need to do a better job of sharing them out with our community.
I would definitely say Colorado startups. We're literally created to be able to be that ecosystem and that place that you can go to get those answers and get those questions asked. We have event calendars and ecosystems canvases where it's just like all of this valuable information. So just going to the website and just diving into that is just really powerful.
I will echo the ecosystem canvas. That was a partnership between Founder Institute and Colorado Startups. There is a list of over 400 resources available, everything from accounting firms, lawyers, startup mentors, other accelerator programs, really just trying to bring the community together. I would say another best kept secret, and something that I tell founders that are new to our community, is just start going to events. Any event you can think of, go on Meetup, go on Eventbrite, and look at events. And then when you're at those events, ask the people there, what other events are you going to? What other organizations are you a member of? And that's how you are going to expand your network and work your way through, because as our panelists have mentioned, it's really hard to have that one-stop shop for all the resources, although Colorado Startups is doing a really good job. But it really comes down to just asking people what else they're doing.
This will be kind of an unpopular, probably, opinion, but your best resource is you and your curiosity and your willingness to dig. That is something that I've seen kind of makes or breaks an entrepreneur at the beginning and middle and end stages, is that constant curiosity of what's next, what's further, what can I dig for, who can I talk to, can that person connect me with another person? And for those introverts in the group, like, there's a lot of research you can do online. It doesn't all have to be in person, but I really encourage you that even if you feel like you're stuck, just keep digging for that info. You absolutely will find it.
One of the things from a corporate side as well that I find it really difficult whenever we find a city is that, imagine it's the best kept secret for the startups. It's probably a best kept secret from us corporations too. Like, we go to Denver, it's like, wait, who are all the economic development people? Who are all the community leaders? How do I get engaged with the community? And it's sometimes really hard for corporations to find, because the way that I'm sourcing these information, what events, I'm in your shoes. I go on Google, I try resource, I try to be curious. I appreciate Diane, my first year coming here, introducing me to people. But it's really hard from a corporation setting as well if the community isn't engaged and collaborative as well. So I'm really excited to hear that this is one of the things that Colorado startups, and the Hill Cities, like, hey, how can we be more collaborative? That being said, are there other challenges that you all have found, particularly within the Denver startup ecosystem, that you'd like to work on or solve? And how do you listen to these challenges that the entrepreneurs here are going through?
I would say for me, when I first moved to Denver, I realized that Denver very much is in silos. Even just like listening to Diane and Kate, I was like, wait, I didn't know about that. But it's because we're in so much in silos, and we have the resources, we have the accessibility, but we just need to be able to have those conversations with other community leaders and say, hey, this is what I'm doing here, this is what I'm doing there, so then we can come together and actually have everyone know what's happening.
I think the other thing is, the perception is that we're all fighting for the same resources. And so oftentimes when you think that there's a lack of something and everybody wants to go get it, and you have all these communities fighting over something, right? People don't want to share information. They don't want to share this resource that I have. And I think that's a false perception. We got so much money in 2020, and a lot of it is still sitting because we don't have, not that we don't have, some of those organizations don't have relationships with the entrepreneurs and the people who actually need the resource. And so I think it's just understanding that, and maybe this is just the woo in me, that believes that there's enough for all of us, and we're better together, which goes back to that, like, nobody's free until all of us are free. And so understand nobody's gonna get all the resources they need until we all have all the resources that we need, and they are here.
I'll celebrate your woo. Who else is woo? I'm woo, I believe.
Right, that was like 5 of y'all. We're here, girl.
Come
We're here.
on. So Colorado has the second highest percentage of women-owned business in the nation. Like, holler to that, 23.84%. The challenge is that only 20% of those will not survive year 1, and 50% of those women-owned businesses will not survive 5 years. So what I've really seen, and this is actually the reason that I developed TARRA, both as a co-working space, but also as a community that we do workshops and education resources. We're helping to stitch a lot of these communities together ourselves. We need more resources for growth. We need, like, there's so much great information out there. There's so many great resources to start up. But once you hit that death valley of growth, that is where the resources dry up. And it's the hardest place to do anything because everybody's different. And I totally understand that. I mean, you need bigger checks to grow. You need more human capital. You need all kinds of things to be able to grow. But the idea is, can we shift some of these, some of the money and the time and the resources that are going to startups to actually help those startups once they get into that growth phase?
So I'm going to talk on that, and then I'm going to answer YJ's question. So this valley of death phenomenon situation is something we've known about in the entrepreneurship world for several decades now. We have a program at the city to help kind of solve that problem. When I say solve, the 3 biggest pain points that companies face as they fall into that valley of death, right? So you want to learn more about that program, come to the session on Wednesday or track me down after the show. But your original question, YJ, if I recall correctly, was really what's working well here, what's not working well in other places, and what do we want to see as kind of future growth and opportunities here in Denver. In my role, in the role that I had prior to being here with the city, I had the opportunity to go actually literally all over the globe to see kind of ecosystems that work and ones that don't work well. And now I understand that you're getting to witness it firsthand, right? And a lot of the challenges that a lot of cities face, especially here in the United States, is there isn't that cohesion between local government, economic development agencies, private sectors, and wonderful groups like these folks down here on the end of this panel. They're not working together in those cities. So then when a corporation like Dell comes in and says, we want to work to help you build this ecosystem, there's no real good starting point, right? And there's not that cohesion between those two groups to actually move the needle forward. Denver consistently ranks really high in those areas. You're sitting here at Denver Startup Week was started by entrepreneurs for this purpose, and it's now the largest event of its kind in the country, right? So there are things that are working very well. One of the things that I've seen in other cities that work really well, and we were starting to gain traction here in Denver until COVID hit, was something that I call the monthly gathering, right? So as an entrepreneur, you can get burnt out really quickly, right? Going to 6 different networking events a week and still trying to raise your family and still figuring out how you're going to pay the bills, right? So with the monthly gathering, what we were doing is we were promoting all these great groups in one centralized location, right? And so on March 15th of 2020, we had 350 people in the building at the Commons on Champa, which is free co-working space if you're not familiar with it. And I think March 17th, the city shut down because of COVID. So we might have been a super spreader event, I'm not sure. But it was really great because entrepreneurs then got to go from group to group and say, are you the right group for me? Is this where my tribe lives, right? What are the other resources that you offer that potentially are a good fit for me? And we were helping move the needle not only for the entrepreneurs, but for the groups that are providing all the supports, right? So I say in my role, it's to connect you to those resources, but it's like herding cats for me, right? Because there's so many amazing groups that are doing wonderful things to support entrepreneurs, but trying to get them connected in a way that allows us to be effective and support entrepreneurs is one of the challenges. So I'd like to see improvements there.
I say let's bring back that party.
I think we're going to. We have a new center opening up in November, and we might kick it off there.
I think to that point, too, a lot of the resources available are being advertised in the same places. And so it's really hard to increase your circle of influence because everybody's talking to the same people. And it feels really comfortable to be in a room where you know everybody. But when you know everybody, then that's also an indication that it's time for you to be in a room where you know nobody. So I think Denver does have this stratus problem where you can network really well within one layer, but then it's how do you get to the next layer? How do you get to the next layer? And so we need to have more vertical integration between those resources so that the early stage entrepreneurs know which resources they should be learning from when they are a year from now, 2 years from now, after they've received their first round of funding, because once you get out of that circle of influence, you are back at square one trying to figure out what are the new resources I need to look at.
One thing I really appreciate is because, well, my team, we're actually really small. And we've just been told to expand to Canada as well. And so for me, when I hear, hey, there's a new building, it's like, you know, if we're hosting an event and all the community leaders are involved, then I would love to support. And if you're building any buildings, I can equip it as well. So all that being said, it's like, you know, for me, my purpose has always been to like, how do I provide as a technology company, right, to support y'all? And I know my peers in Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Intel, we don't really have a lot of competitors in our space in a way that we recognize where we fit in terms of stage for each of these founders. And so my peers started realizing that, hey, we're all struggling to have conversations because we felt like we had to have individual one-on-ones with each one. And it was so tiring, especially when the whole tech ecosystem like went on downhill for a little bit. So we started getting together and said, hey, you know, working with JP Morgan, working with, you know, Chase or Capital One or, you know, all of my partners, like, hey, how can we help y'all host some events? But we also would love for the city to be collaborative as well. And so that's where my role is, like, hey, how do I work smart? And someone as a startup is like, it's difficult if you can't find these resources and you feel like I have to engage each community or individually to truly understand, you know, is there a central source of location? So all that being said, I'd love to kind of share a little bit more of where do you think, you know, Denver has changed over time? And I know, Michael, you tied it off a little bit. And where do you think we're going towards to in the future?
I'm happy to kick it off. I think Denver has done a really nice job, and Colorado in general has done a really nice job in the past couple of decades of diversifying its economy, right? So we were huge in the oil and gas sectors for quite a long time. We still have a strong presence here, but when you see dips in economies that are tied to one industry, that creates a challenge, right? A challenge for you not only in that current state of a down economy, but recovery and coming out of that, right? So our former governor, our current governor, both have been entrepreneurs, right? Very successful entrepreneurs. Our mayor, who recently concluded his third and final term with us, very supportive of entrepreneurs here in Denver, and they committed the resources to make that happen, right? So one of the biggest things that you've probably seen across Denver, across Colorado as a whole, really, is diversifying of industry sectors, right? And oftentimes you hear, especially in these types of sessions, like, how do you become the next Silicon Valley? How do you become, you know, whatever? I think Salt Lake City is calling themselves now the Silicon Slopes or something, right? In Denver, it's always been really interesting because all the leaders here will say, we don't want to be like Silicon Valley. We're Denver. We want to be like Denver, right? But there's a tremendous focus on that diversification in the industry sectors that we see coming to Denver on a regular basis. Tech is huge. In Denver, tech is big everywhere, right? But we're seeing this massive kind of diversification across the tech sector as well. I think that's fabulous. We're seeing a ton of resources being created to support underrepresented founders. And I'm helping to lead the charge in some of that, but there always needs to be more for that, right? And Denver as a city has a very low population of BIPOC founders. And we want to see an increase in that because we know that those founders create really strong economies. They create really amazing jobs, and we want to help create wealth across that sector. So that's where I'm going to spend the next 3 to 5 years of my career here with the city of Denver, is focused on that piece there.
And I think to that point, Michael, that is one of the things to me that Denver has this amazing opportunity. Like we're still sort of in toddler phase, I would say, of a startup ecosystem. If you call Silicon Valley, the adult. And what that does is it allows us to innovate and create something from the ground up that has diversity written into its code, right? And that to me is one of our biggest opportunities that both Michael and I and Diane and Carrie and Diane are all working towards. And just the representation on the stage is enough to show you that this is a very different elephant, which is pretty cool. And so it's something that I encourage across the board to every single person in this room. Think about Denver, think about being part of this community, that you have an opportunity to build this thing from the ground up. What would it look like if you could start at square one? Ask yourself that question and ask yourself, how can I contribute to that? Because that's what's exciting. That's the future. I mean, I think in 2045, I think more than half the population is not going to be white. And so we have to look at that future-oriented conversation of where do we want to be in 20, 30 years.
And I think, in my opinion, what Denver, when I look at, right, I'm born and raised in Colorado, and when I look at where we were and where we're going, obviously COVID shut down a lot of our businesses, especially in our Black, Latina, and Indigenous small businesses, and we know small business is an economic driver in any community. And you can't have one population or one segment generating wealth and creating wealth and have another group of people excluded from that, because then your community is just trash, really, right? Like you're destined to fail, and your homeless population and all of the other issues that we see happening in all of our communities, really just because of COVID and us trying to rebound from that, and then being in the not recession. I don't know if we're calling it that yet or whatever. But when I look at Denver, we're starting to have those conversations, and we have leaders that don't look like traditional finance people that are having a conversation that's really intentional around what does it look like to intentionally invest and really invest in BIPOC founders in a way that historically hasn't been done, without all the guardrails that usually happen when we're like, let's bring in the other people. And then we put these caps and these perimeters around them. And I think Denver is starting to have that conversation as we look at a country that is in distress because we have kept a lot of people out of generating and creating wealth. And so we have a lot of resources on this stage. I'm doing my small part. I'm a video lady. I'm a creative, but I am a small business owner. I employ people. I understand what that means, and I have two adults growing up in this world, and I'm like, we have to make it better for all of them. But I think we're starting to lead the charge in having these conversations about investing and providing the wraparound support and services that our entrepreneurs need to be successful.
I know prior to COVID, if you were having the inkling of starting a startup or wanting to do something outside of corporate America, nothing against Dell, that you were already in a community that was very supportive of your success and respected your potential. Then COVID came along and everything kind of went virtual, and then it kind of just disappeared. So now a lot of early stage founders got their idea and were started during COVID. And so now they're coming out of their home offices and they're looking around and they're saying, what do I do now? Because they don't know how great this community is. They have been in the dark. And so what I'm seeing is just this resurgence of events and people wanting to connect on a personal level, and we're slowly getting back to where we were pre-COVID. It has taken a bit of time, but I think that is something that's different because a lot of the new startups today weren't brought up in the community that I was brought up in.
Well, before I move on to any audience questions and answers that you would like to have, I would love to ask each of you two questions. The first question I'd love to explore is, what are some conversations that you feel like will help you in your initiative? And then second, what are some questions that you're happy to help answer for any of our founders and that one investor over there?
What was the first one?
Any conversations that will help you with any of your initiatives as one of the community leaders or supporting building up a part of Denver?
Yeah, we just want to know what women founders and women-owned businesses need. What do you need? What do you want? We'll build it. I've got several members in the audience. They know that the minute somebody comes to me with a great idea, I'm like, boom, we're doing it. And so none of us up here can exist without your ideas and your conversations in the room, because if we build things that you don't need, then what's the point? So be opinionated, have conversations with us, call us, email us, hey, I'm looking for this, this, and this, right? So that is my first directive to each of you today. Find our email addresses. I don't know where you can, but email us. What do you need? What are you looking for? My favorite conversations with women-owned founders is, hey, I'm looking for this. Can you connect me with a lawyer, a banker, a funding resource, a workshop, another women's organization that may be a better fit than TARRA? If we as stakeholders in this ecosystem aren't giving you what you need, then we're just self-serving, and that doesn't make sense to me. And so, please come find me afterwards anytime. I'm a very open book, and I am happy to provide you with any resources that you're looking for. And if I can't find it, then I'll find somebody else that can.
I would just kind of echo that. I mean, Kate's being a little bit modest on the work she's doing with DU and the efforts that are happening there. Come to those sessions. Please come to those sessions. We run a ton of focus groups and panel discussions. This is a great opportunity for you to come to the room to tell us what some of those pain points are, so that they can be recorded and calculated into the data, so that we can create good, solid solutions that will stick and actually help you move the needle forward. It's really critical, right? Because we can sit around and complain all day long, but complaints are different than action, right? And so we want to be able to take something that's causing you pain or causing you not to be able to create the successful business that you want to create, or create the successful life that you want to create for yourself, and we want to give you the tools to make it get there, right? And I'm just going to say, just to protect the one investor in the room, money doesn't solve every problem, right? So every single day we hear people say, I just need money. If I just had money, we could get this. And that's maybe true in a lot of cases, but I really want you to be strategic about how and when that money gets acquired and how it gets used in that process, right? Because you have to think long-term to have the biggest impact and the most sustainable outcome for your business, because you can get money, not spend it properly, and be in the same situation 6 months later and not have moved the needle forward. So just be thoughtful in that way, and we can help in that process.
I do have one caveat that I want to make sure I get out there, is that a lot of the conversations that we're having up here for women and BIPOC founders, this is not leaving out the very capable, hardworking white men in this audience. And I want you to know that we understand that the work that we're doing only helps you. We're in the all boats rise from the bottom up. And if we're creating opportunities for women and BIPOC founders to more easily access funding and more easily access investment, that only means that it's going to be easier for you as well. So please support what we're doing, and please understand that this is not against you, this is for you.
And to that point, just want to say, when we talk about diversity, we get caught up in that I am the face of diversity. I do not make up diversity. We all make up diversity. Every single person is in the realm of diversity. You're not excluded. You are included. We're all diverse. If it was just me and my friend on this panel, we wouldn't make up diversity, right? It takes all, oh, sorry. My bad. Maybe I'm a little too touchy. but it takes all of us. It takes all of us to create diversity. So I just want to say that we were taught wrong. We put white men in a room and said this is diversity, and then put black people in a room and was like, you guys are diversity, and that's not what it is. It's all of us. So when we speak about diversity, I'm being inclusive of everybody. Now, as the community chair for Denver Startup Week, I always want to know what makes you want to come to Denver Startup Week, what keeps you coming back every year, and what do we need to do to grow and evolve and make it a space and a place where you're learning, you're growing, and you're building a community that you want to build. And so really my ask of you is to let me know what you're enjoying, what we need to do better, what we're not doing really good at, and what you want to see more of, especially as, right, like I'm sure everybody in here isn't like in your first year of entrepreneurship. Some of you probably already have built multi-million-dollar businesses, and maybe this conversation isn't even for you and doesn't speak to you, and that's okay. I'm glad you're here. Hey. There might be somebody in the audience that needs your assistance or needs to know you and needs to build a relationship with you. But for me, I really want to understand what makes you come, what makes you come back, what will make you come back next year, what do you want to see more of? What was the second question?
The second question was, what type of questions are you willing to help our audience with? So the first one was, what conversations would help you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I do a lot of things. So if you want to know, I don't know, how to get more involved in Denver Startup Week, please come have a conversation. I'll answer that.
You know everyone. She knows everybody.
I know a
Just
couple
ask
people.
her. Yeah, she knows everybody.
I would say same as Kate, like I would love to know any questions that you have. Like if you're like, I want to know different events. I would love to have this event in Denver. I want to, anything about community building. That's what I would love to know about, and conversation I could have about events happening in Denver, ecosystem, canvases, and things like that.
I think being last on the panel means most of the answers are already taken. We do at Founder Institute run about 100 global events a year. Those are all virtual. We also have an in-person conference in Silicon Valley. So in addition to knowing what topics and content you want to know about, I would say most of our events are how to raise funding, because talking about funding is catnip to founders. But we have to go deeper than that. To the point earlier, it takes more than funding to make a successful company. So knowing other resources, also knowing how we can best tap the Colorado ecosystem into the global ecosystem, because we can't be narrow-minded in that aspect either. We do have to think globally. If you are launching a company, you do have to have a global mindset, and that takes more than just one ecosystem to do that. So would love to hear your thoughts on how we can be more than just Denver and how we can unite communities globally.
Sorry, I'm so needy. One more thing, y'all. What would make you come back downtown? Like what could we do outside of Denver Startup Week that would make you want to come work downtown again and just want to come back downtown and attend events or whatever? Like, what else do we need to do to get
be
you
with
back
other
down
humans
here?
in real life.
Yeah, that's it.
No, that reminds me of, when I came here to explore Denver partnerships, I think I made like 20 trips to different venues last year. And it was really fast, and I really appreciate Diane. She actually took me in
I
a car.
chauffeured him around.
Chauffeured me around. And it was like just having one-on-one conversations. And when we visited Commons on Champa, I was like, this is my first time seeing a free public co-working space. And they were telling me, hey, YJ, all our technology is kind of run down. Can you help with that? And I was like, well, before I come in and try to support Commons on Champa, and the first thing that we did with Commons on Champa was, I want to do a community survey. It's so easy for me to say, yes, I can give you money to host some programming. But the first thing I wanted to know is, what does the community actually need? And if you remember the survey results, one of them was public transportation. It's not that easy to get it downtown. So how are we going to make it easier for people? And a lot of the conversations that I want to have, I was to answer my own question, is if you are someone who's developing a community or developing, whether you're a startup for your employees, whether it's for people around you, or whether you do own a community to support other startup communities, I want to know, what are you doing to help support the entrepreneurs, and how are you working alongside with City, and how can I help you in that initiative? Because yes, you can come to me and I can nerd out on equipment. I can nerd out on our corporate innovation team, our Delta Capital team. That's what the table over there is for. But really what I care about is just learning more from the city leaders themselves. Like, how can I be engaging with y'all in a really meaningful, impactful way? I read both Startup Communities and Startup Community Way. I read about the Boulder Thesis. It's all about give first. But at the end of the day, it's like, how do we make sure that we're giving each other in a way that's sustainable, right? So I love to explore these conversations with y'all. And with that being said, anyone here have any questions for our leaders here? If you want to stand up, talk about what you do, and just let us know what the question is, that'll be great.
I'm pretty loud. Okay, there we go. My name is Luz Gonzalez, and I do digital marketing. But what I really do, and part of my question is, I'm building the entrepreneurial and tech ecosystem in Colorado Springs. So my question is, how are you all looking at the work that you're doing really impacting all of Colorado, right? And how are you, beyond just understanding what's happening in the rest of Colorado, how are you being intentional about feeding into the other communities? We just had SoCo Startup Week, and I felt a little jealousy is not the right word. I don't know what the right word is, but I was like, you guys have so many resources. That's so cool. We didn't have panels where people said, there's just so many resources for you founders here. So I definitely want to talk to you about how do we do that in Colorado Springs, but beyond Colorado Springs, how do we do that for the rest of Colorado?
I'm going to let Diane go first because she calls Colorado Springs home. Right?
Yeah, it's not a well-kept secret, but I commute from Colorado Springs, so would love to chat because I've seen firsthand the ecosystem there and have had different initiatives there. I kind of know why they don't work, and I know why certain things do work and why they don't, so would love to continue that conversation there. It's more than just a one quick answer, but appreciate your work in the community, and there's lots going on around Colorado.
Yeah, and Luz, I'm glad that you brought that question up. So I actually worked with them as they were developing that program and sent them a lot of guest speakers for their panels there because they were lacking some of the resources that they want on certain subject matters. I work very collaboratively with my counterparts across the entire state of Colorado. I was formerly on a board called Colorado Companies to Watch, and I was the chair for the Economic Development Committee, which was a fancy name for me just saying getting together with all of my colleagues around the state once a month to say what's cool and what's happening in your neck of the woods so that we can share it here. Right? And so, because I think it's important, right? If the state itself is doing well, the cities are doing well, right? It's not just about Denver and Boulder, right? It's about all the other economic development sectors across the state. And everybody offers their own little nugget of strength, if you will. There's some really great things that are happening on the Western Slope right now and some of the things that they're kind of leading the charges. One of the challenges that Diane is probably keeping to herself right now is some of that segregation that I talked about earlier, right? There's some really impressive innovation things happening there in a private sector, right? And so while they're potentially open to entrepreneurs and open to the public in some ways, you have to dig really hard to find that. And I don't see as much of that collaboration and that connection that you would like to see in some other cities where the economic development groups are working closely with private sector to make that work.
Shout out to the Springs. That's where I was born.
I was born there too. I was born in Colorado Springs too. We got a whole contingency up here. We are just past our first year in business and are actively looking at how we can expand our communities into communities like Colorado Springs. We actually have a young woman down there who's interested in becoming our lead there. And I think that one of the, I come from a small town in Wyoming and know the challenges of rural businesses. And I think that, one of the things that TARRA is really focusing on is that we're actually trying to be a resource for non-tech startups too, because I think that the small business owner and micro business owner gets left out a lot in these conversations. They're not, venture backable, et cetera. But the reality is that they actually employ a massive amount of humans across the United States, and especially in rural communities. And so one of our big focuses is how can we, as a women's organization, really dig into some of those resources for those small and micro businesses and really scalable services, because you can make a very good living and have a very good business not in the technology startup world. And I think that that's something that needs to be better focused on in rural communities. Yeah.
I'm really excited. From a corporate perspective, I'm very conscious that some of these larger cities, they take my program for granted sometimes. And so I love supporting smaller cities, because when some larger city, specifically maybe San Francisco, says like, hey, you want to support my small community for 100 grand? It's like, why would I do that when I can support 5, 6 other cities for the whole year? And I know that they'll appreciate a lot more when I bring mentors or teachers or people who can talk about like, hey, how can we work together to support them? And so I have a small heart for all those smaller towns, and I've actually worked with local libraries in Texas as well to host citywide like pitch showcases. And the librarians, they're so happy. Just, why did you give me $5,000? And we're only giving it straight to the founders. It makes it even better for me, right? I know that the money that we have to go support founders goes straight back to them. And so whatever makes sense, like Dell's happy to support.
Yeah, I'll just say we're still a small town. We still herd cattle down the street once a year. Just kidding.
There is so much potential in small towns that's sitting dormant, and I really applaud that. And I think that there's more of that needs to happen, because truly the future of America is laying in some of those small cities. So thank you.
And the libraries too, like work with the local library. Like the librarian, they're always super nice. They're very agnostic. They're curators of knowledge, and they just love trying to figure out, hey, how do we be more involved in helping people build businesses? And some of these librarians, they don't know what y'all need help with. But I can tell you, if you go there and say, hey, we'd love to create a free accelerator program, they're all for it. So thanks for asking. Next.
Hey, good morning.
Oh.
Brian Elizardi, I oversee innovation for CSU's new campus, the Spur campus, here in Denver. So we're the folks that walk the cattle down the street. And we are actually a lot more than that as well, too. So curious to get your perspectives, and I really appreciate the depth and breadth of this panel up here in the conversation. And I'd love to hear from the groups what role you see higher ed playing in that process, and especially at YJ, if you've seen best practices in Austin, worst practices maybe too, but
I got this really quick.
Yeah, please.
So I graduated from the University of Houston. We were, I think on Princeton Review, ranked #1 as entrepreneurship program. They only took 40 of us. It was 3 semesters long. They gave us patents from the university to help commercialize. So I actually participated in business plan competitions. And actually, when I graduated, it actually took me a while telling people I wanted to be an entrepreneur to get a job. But that being said, when I did finally get a job and started spearheading what Dell for Startups later became to be, I realized a lot of my classmates were leading startup communities in Texas. So imagine joining a Zoom call and I saw my classmate I studied entrepreneurship with leading one organization in Houston called Diving, supporting women, minority founders on that call, and for us to finally get to work with each other on that level. I want to say from a higher education, there's so much intellectual property that's available for public consumption. A lot of these professors, sometimes they don't know the business side. And so we're working with like the communication school, with working with the entrepreneurship business school. There's a lot of beauty in like, how do we get these students who will be our future leaders, who will be potentially even shaping entrepreneurship programs more integrated by providing them mentors, by providing them opportunity to tour different spaces. And there's a lot of things that students can do in that regards. And what I love about higher education is that you all have spaces. Sometimes it's really hard to get into your space, but you're more willing to work with the public to just host these big public sessions to provide those educational opportunities. Because a lot of founders here too, some of the basic fundamentals of creating a business plan competition, or how do I pitch a 3-minute pitch or a 10-minute pitch, sometimes some of these startups may need help with or may want more practice with. And just like libraries, higher education is also a pretty agnostic place for people to congregate and meet.
I'm going to chime in. Sorry, Kate, I'm going to cut you off on this one because basically what I'm going to do is give this gentleman a sales pitch because this is one of the most amazing resources that's coming online in Denver, and it is open to the public and to entrepreneurs. I work really closely with this institution in what they do. So incoming entrepreneurs that need things like lab space, co-working space, access to subject matter experts like the professors and the students, the grad students that are there, top level technology that no startup can acquire by themselves, right? Equipment, physical space, all the way down to, I mean, Kate and I have talked multiple times here about how we work with other local institutions. I'm pretty plugged into all the institutions in the state of Colorado. And I lean on them quite frequently for the resources that we need, all the way down to the fact that these institutions can provide you with interns, right? And we don't think about that sometimes, like I need talent, I need help, but I'm not quite there to pay this full-time salary. Look into interns, right? These universities are excellent resources for those kinds of things, but get tied into what's happening at CSU Spur. If you're a Denver local, please get connected to that institution.
I'm so excited that you asked this question. I was crawling over him to answer it. So this has actually been one of my most kind of intriguing spaces of how to connect higher education into things like what we're doing at TARRA. And to me, I've talked to CSU, I've talked to CU, I've talked to the University of Denver and Metro State, because I believe that the knowledge base that you have in your professors, that knowledge, that business knowledge needs to get out to the public in a faster, more efficient, cost-effective way. I actually couldn't find the kind of educational resources that I needed as an entrepreneur. It's why I developed TARRA, but then I actually went and got my MBA because I wanted to understand what they were teaching and how I could kind of pull that apart and put it back together in a way that would become accessible to my members. I still haven't figured it out yet because I actually believe that the missing piece is a partnership with a university like yours. And that, to me, that dissemination of, sort of this gate-kept knowledge at the MBA level, if that can get down, even just a fraction of that can get down into the entrepreneur levels of small businesses, micro businesses, and startups, you would have, I would say, infinitely better success rates. Just basic corporate finance, basic business law, basic marketing, basic digital. It's pretty fundamental, and I think that is an opportunity that you all have that is fully untapped, and I'm happy to help you do it. So
I wouldn't be in this job if it wasn't for my entrepreneurship program at university. So lots of great potential there. And if you'll need help with courses or what programs, I'm more than happy because I was part of it. And now I work with my university to help out. I think you had a question as well in the front. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Helen. I'm a founder of Shoelytics, which is a no-code analytics platform for startup operators. I am admittedly introverted, and hearing about a networking event with 300 people, all I can think is, which wall am I going to post up at? And so I was wondering if you could suggest any avenues for maybe like small group networking, or even preferably one-on-one with another entrepreneur, an investor, just anyone in the startup ecosystem.
Come to TARRA.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Come to TARRA. Come to the events that are hosted by these individuals here. Through the Commons on Champa, we offer free advisory hours, right? So that's your one-on-one coaching, consulting at any stage of your journey, right? And so we have somebody on our team that can help you with wherever you're at on your journey. Those one-on-one sessions can happen every week, every month, whatever the cadence is that is most suitable for you. I personally coach about 1,200 entrepreneurs throughout the course of the year because I love doing it and it's super fun for me, in addition to the programming and things there. So places like the Commons, the new center that will open, are co-working spaces, but they tend to be lower key than what we work with or something when they were in their heyday kind of thing. Much lower key and a great way for you to connect and collaborate with other entrepreneurs. I know Diane can speak to this. She's spent a lot of time in spaces like this and had some successes in that space. But those are great ways to be in small circles until you expand out.
I don't have any advice because I'm an extreme extrovert. So give me 300 people so I can leave with a lot of friends. But I would definitely say get on LinkedIn and see who you want to be connected to. Who do you know that's connected to those people? Do some introductions and sit down and have a lot of coffees.
Oh, go ahead.
In addition to being from Colorado Springs, I'm also an introvert, and you would never know. When you are at a big event, you're still speaking to one other person who's an individual. So you don't go to these events and think that you have to have a conversation with all 300 people. You only need to have a wonderful conversation with one person to make a difference. So, and you never know, that one person might be looking to do the exact same thing, have one really good conversation. So it's all about making those personal connections, and that happens on a one-to-one level. It doesn't matter if you're in a room with one person or 1,000 people. It's all about that one-to-one connection.
It's funny, me and Diane are very much the same. I'm very much introverted. Most people do not believe it, but I am. And one of the things that I say is actually a room with 300 people makes it easier because they won't all see you. You can find that one person that you can have that relationship with in that conversation. And then everybody else, we have the other Diane that's talking to all the people. You're like, perfect. I'll just talk to my one person. Also, what I would say is Colorado Startups events calendar is a great way to start because you can actually find events that you feel like will be more comfortable for you. Be like, oh, this looks like it's a small event, or this looks like it might be a bigger event, so I can go in and kind of like pop my head around, check the vibe, and if it feels good, I can start having conversations.
We also offer food and booze, so nobody likes to eat alone.
That helps. As someone who's a huge introvert who cries after large events, I always try to find, I can like cry under the curtain over there, or where's the closest restroom, but...
That's why we have the green room.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's why. And I was going through crisis because I realized my whole job was talking to people. So, like my team, we probably talk to 3,000 startups a month. This month, probably it's going to be around 6,000. We connect them with our advisors. But my best advice is be really intentional and present with people. And if you're vocal about what you need and what you want in life, and you have this strong purpose, like me telling all of them, all I care about is building sustainable communities, enabling discovery for communities to see what's possible. That's all I care about in this world. And that's how I navigated my friends, my family, my work. And that's what I told my manager what I wanted to do. And suddenly people started introducing others to you. And so that's my best advice, figuring out like what you need in life and what you need in people, and just being as loud as possible, maybe just to the one or few people here. And they're more than happy to introduce you to the right people that you need to talk to. We have time for one last question. We can do two.
My name is Josh Butchness. I work with Founder Shield. I talk to a lot of startups, and something that I notice is that they have trouble finding grants. There's tons of microloans and stuff available, but oftentimes grants are at one person is offering one grant, and they have to apply for that. Is there any central location that I could send these folks so they could, just kind of level up and hit a couple instead of just one?
Send them to me. I have that conversation about 10 times a day.
Hi, I'm Brandon with GetSkiTickets.com. We've been entrepreneurs for about 15 years. One of the challenges is when you have kids, going to events in the evening that are, it's not necessarily kid-friendly. Are there founder meetups that are kid and family-friendly?
As a mom, I would say, my kids are adults now and living their best lives, and I don't know where they're at majority of the time. But I know when they were younger, I just took them with me. And what you'll find now is people just are a lot more open to kids being a part of the event, because women are now in the workplace and we're running organizations, and we're going to do what it takes to to make it happen. So you will find that there's a lot of events that I go to and babies are there. So just bring them.
We purposefully at TARRA allow kids at our events, obviously, but then we also purposefully have the events in the morning after drop-off and around the noontime, and then in the early sort of 3 o'clock time period as well. And we switch it up every single month, and we try to make it so that there's opportunities that are available. The majority of them are not in the evening. And I really encourage other communities to consider that as an opportunity to capture a lot of these working parents, especially the noontime, lunchtime arena. I know that, Michael, you've shifted a lot of your event programming to that early evening, kind of 3 to 5 p.m. And so if there's other community leaders out there, that's what I really recommend, because it is a game changer for parents.
One last question there in the back.
Yes, I will try and be quick. So I'm from your neighbor, like to the east. I'm from Kansas City, and I really resonate a lot with what you guys are saying, the silos conversation, the lack of funding, the lack of resources. So my question is just like off the top of your head, do you guys know any sort of state level or maybe slightly bigger organizations that as a representative of the other Midwest, right, that we could reach out to start to kind of break down those silos maybe across that region as well, so that we can better serve the entrepreneurs, draw more attention, et cetera?
Yeah, I would just also encourage you to connect. Let's connect after this. I can tell you kind of what we do really well here in Colorado, and connect you to some people that I know that are building ecosystems there in Kansas City.
And you're more than welcome to reach out to myself. We have a lot of connections in different cities. So similarly to this panel discussion, we had this panel discussion in Dallas last week, and then Atlanta the 2-3 weeks before. And I'm more than happy to tell you what I love about each city and what they're also challenging. A lot of the same challenges, like you see the cities that are struggling the most are working in silos. You see the cities that are challenging the most is that they don't have paid community managers. So co-working spaces do so much for the city because they're motivated and incentivized to not only create education and connect their current members to the public, but also provides an opportunity for the public to learn about what they're doing and for the public to get free education. And so typically when we look at these different cities and which cities are thriving the most, it's usually the ones that had paid community manager or paid community leaders. And some of these community leaders are doing it for free, but it's not sustainable for them necessarily. So happy to go over it. We also have a community called the Dell Women's Entrepreneur Network, which is a global community. We've also done a report on a WeCities report that ranks different cities across the world about which cities are doing the most to support women entrepreneurs. So it could be a really interesting report to look into, but they have a lot of resources and connections. And if y'all are more interested, I'm more than happy to have that conversation later. With that being said, thank you all for coming here today. I really appreciate meeting you all. And yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to grab lunch, please visit the Bazaar booth in the information bar. Once again, if you'd like to grab lunch, please visit the Bazaar booth in the info bar.